Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're peeling back the layers of a text you probably think you already know inside and out, the fifth commandment. You know the one, right? Honor thy father and thy mother. Usually, our minds just immediately jump to this super simplistic behavioral rule for kids. We picture telling children to, clean their rooms or do their chores. But honestly, when we actually look closer at the source material, we discover that it is way, way more than just some basic mandate for good manners.
Seriously, what if the most misunderstood commandment isn't really about rules at all, but about weight? By diving into the ancient text, we uncover this profoundly deep philosophical concept about societal stability and spiritual maturity that totally flips our modern assumptions upside down. Think about it. What if this ancient command is actually a master blueprint for how we view reality, authority, and human value? Today, we're going to unpack exactly why this commandment is structurally and linguistically unique, and, as you'll see, it matters just as much for us adults as it does for kids.
All right, section 1, the weight of honor, the linguistic anchor.
Okay, let's just dive right in by peeling back the very first layer. To really wrap our heads around this concept, we have to look at the original language. The commandment uses the Hebrew word kaved, which comes from the root word kaved. And get this, it literally translates to heavy, weighty, substantial, or important. So God isn't just saying, hey, be polite. No way. He's actually creating this beautiful physical word picture for a very deep spiritual truth. In ancient Hebrew thought, treating someone with honor meant treating them as, well, heavy and significant. It's a striking contrast. On one hand, you have things that are heavy, things that truly matter, things given God-ordained significance that we should treat with real value. On the other hand, you have things that are light, meaning they're trivial, fleeting, or just totally lacking substance. So honoring someone, that reaches way deeper than just politely following rules or biting your tongue to avoid an insult. It means actively recognizing their God-given significance. You're intentionally giving weight to their position in your life.
Moving on to section 2, the hinge of the commandments, a strategic pivot point.
So what's really fascinating here is how the fifth commandment is strategically positioned right smack in the middle of the Decalogue, or the Ten Commandments. Traditionally, these are split into two tables. The first table is all about humanity's relationship with God, having no other gods, no idols, that kind of thing. Then the second table shifts to relationships with people, no murder, no adultery. And the command to honor parents, it sits right there at the hinge. It literally acts as the bridge between these two tables. Why? Because parents are the very first human authority a child ever encounters. Long before we can even comprehend kings or governments or laws, we encounter our parents. This commandment is basically our initial training ground for understanding authority itself, teaching us how to properly recognize a God-ordained order.
Section 3, honor versus love versus obedience, distinguishing actions and attitudes.
Now, this is a crucial point. Honoring is fundamentally different from simply obeying. Notice that God didn't merely command obedience here. Think about it. A child can follow the rules without a single shred of internal respect or gratitude. It's just like how a soldier obeys orders or a prisoner obeys rules, right? None of those scenarios actually require the heart to be engaged. But honor absolutely involves the heart. It requires this attitude of respect, of gratitude, and a genuine recognition of value. It's an active, positive virtue, doing good rather than just keeping yourself from doing bad. God is basically asking for a very specific posture of the soul. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates why God chose the word honor instead of love. Look, love is emotional, it's feeling-based, and it can fluctuate wildly based on how parents behave. And let's be totally real for a second. Some parents have been negligent or abusive, which makes emotional love incredibly difficult, if not impossible. But honor is volitional. It's a choice. It requires recognizing a God-assigned position completely regardless of your feelings. You don't have to pretend evil is good to honor someone. You can absolutely condemn wrongdoing while still refusing to treat the person with total contempt. So honor is a choice of the soul, not just some knee-jerk emotional reaction.
Okay, section 4, the ancient safety net, survival in the ancient Near East.
To our modern Western ears, this command probably just sounds like some polite family advice. But back in the ancient Near East, the family was the whole game. It was the primary social institution. Parents served these incredibly overwhelming roles. Think about it. They were the teachers, the judges, the historians, the spiritual instructors, and literally the sole economic providers. We're talking about a world with no public schools, no internet, no retirement systems, no social security, and zero state welfare. So if you dishonored your parents, you weren't just being a rebellious teenager.
You are actively threatening the stability and survival of the entire covenant community.
This perfectly explains why there's a specific promise attached to this commandment, that your days may be long upon the land. See, it's not just some arbitrary reward for good behavior. It's a direct cause and effect relationship. When generations honor one another, wisdom and faith successfully transfer from one to the next. And when that transfer happens, the culture survives and communities remain stable. In that world, family stability literally equaled national survival. It's simple. Healthy families produce healthy societies.
We also see these really striking parallels between the fourth and fifth commandments. The fourth says, remember. The fifth says, honor. These are actually the only two positive commands in the whole Decalogue that shape our identity through internal actions. Now, remember isn't just recalling historical facts. It's actively bringing truth into your present life. And honor isn't just offering respectful gestures. It's actively regarding someone as weighty. Together, they form this incredible bridge. One teaches reverence toward the Creator, and the other teaches reverence toward the people through whom God gave you life. They're calling us to live with a posture of grateful remembrance.
Section 5. Authority and its limits. The boundary of in the Lord. Now, you might be wondering, how does this all apply when human authority is deeply flawed? And how does it evolve as we grow up? Well, the Apostle Paul actually expands on the original commandment with a really crucial addition. He says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." That little phrase right there, in the Lord, is absolutely essential. It signifies that parental authority is derived from God. It sits firmly within the sphere of Christ's authority. Because of that, parental authority is not absolute. Parents do not replace God. This command never ever means you have to obey if a parent is commanding something sinful. The source material actually gives us some crystal clear biblical examples of this boundary. You've got Daniel's friends refusing idolatry, the apostles flat out refusing orders to stop preaching, and early Christians respectfully refusing to worship the emperor. The takeaway here? If a human authority commands what God forbids, a believer absolutely must put God first. You can respectfully refuse to engage in sinful obedience while still maintaining an attitude of honor. The Bible literally never requires blind, sinful obedience.
In this distinction, it's paramount as we transition into adulthood. Kids are commanded to obey, but adults are never explicitly commanded to obey their parents indefinitely. That blind obedience completely ceases. But, and here's the kicker, the honor continues. An adult son or daughter might completely disagree with their parents, reject their counsel, and establish their own firm boundaries. Yet they can still honor them through lifelong respect, gratitude, care, dignity, and a steadfast refusal to show contempt. The obedience changes with age, but the honor doesn't.
Bringing us to Section 6. Preparing for the invisible, the ultimate purpose. When you think about it, the family is really the very first classroom of human life. It's the place where we learn how to relate to an invisible authority by first relating to a visible one. Think about those early foundational lessons of childhood. I didn't create myself. I am definitely not the center of reality, and I have obligations way beyond just myself. When functioning properly, parents become these living, breathing illustrations of God's care and authority. We learn reverence, trust, and submission long before we can even begin to conceptualize the divine. Honestly, this ancient text powerfully challenges our modern cultural obsessions. Today, we so often equate freedom with total, absolute independence. We want to be entirely self-made. But Scripture presents a radically different vision. As our source material beautifully points out, maturity is not learning to need no one. Maturity is learning to rightly value what God has given. To honor your father and mother is to recognize that life itself came through others, that wisdom is inherited, and that true maturity is actually a posture of profound gratitude. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. How do you weigh the value of the people and the history that preceded you? Are you striving for this illusion of independence that completely forgets where you came from? Or are you choosing to live with grateful remembrance, assigning proper weight and honor to the people God used to give you life itself? The fifth commandment isn't just some dusty old rule. It's a profound invitation to see the world differently, a world where the gifts God has given us are treated as truly weighty. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.